where we sit today, without a doubt, food stamps is the most universal, critical piece of the social safety net in America. It is the only program that essentially everybody is eligible for if you meet the economic tests. You need to have satisfied the test to have income below a certain level and have assets below a certain level, which we refer to as basic economic need. It is the only program that we have that provides that need regardless of your other circumstances. So most of the rest of the social safety net is targeted on certain demographic groups: the elderly, the disabled, children. And so many of our programs in the United States leave certain groups behind, very prominently individuals who don't have kids, who are still sort of prime age, really don't have access to many benefits despite their economic disadvantage in the United States. And food stamps, throughout its entire history, is the one program where eligibility depends on economic need and not on other things. But it started in the early 1960s, very much in a response to visible abject hunger. So essentially, when President Kennedy was on the campaign trail and visiting very poor communities in Appalachia, he saw, as someone who was raised in a very prominent, well-off family, he saw real hunger and deprivation in a way that he didn't know existed in America. And so his first executive action as the president was to establish pilot programs for what became food stamps. And so quite quickly after he was in office, several, dozens of pilot programs were launched over the first couple of years of his presidency. Congressional legislation came in 1964. The Food Stamp Act was passed, and essentially what's interesting about it is that there were sort of coalitions for the poor who were pushing for this program, but there was a lot of pushback from more agricultural-based representatives who were concerned that this would take resources away from agriculture, because the program that predated food stamps was actually a commodity distribution program. So essentially, the USDA would purchase excess commodities from farmers in order for price support purposes. It was really a farm program, agriculture program. But when they had these commodities, they would then distribute them to the poor in nearby cities. And so the farm lobby was concerned that this new program, which would sort of take the place of the old program, would be worse off for them. So the original legislation in 1964 advanced the food stamp program, not very different from what it is today, but did not compel every locality in America to establish it, and instead said, if you want to opt into this program, apply, and we'll fund it subject to appropriations. And so over a 10-year, 11-year period between 1964 and 1974, slowly counties were rolling out their food stamp programs. And then 10 years later, in 1974, the Food Stamp Act amendments were passed, and at that point, there was the final sort of, you're compelled to have this program in place. And at that point, most counties had already implemented a food stamp program. Once food stamps was nationwide, as part of that process, throughout the appropriations over the years, the Farm Bill has had two sets of legislation in it: the food stamp authorization and the agricultural subsidies have all been wrapped up together.